The knock at the gate was just after sunset when Keanu Reeves stepped onto the front porch of his modest home in a quiet neighborhood outside Los Angeles. The air smelled of jasmine and faint wood smoke, and the orange-pink light was fading. Behind the hills, he held a steaming mug of tea, the same blend his mother used to make. His life, despite the fame, was built on quiet habits: morning motorcycle rides, long walks, reading on the porch, and listening, always listening to the world, to the silences between people. That evening, something was different. A soft knock echoed at the gate, not loud, not urgent, almost like the person on the other side didn't want to disturb him, but needed to. He paused. It wasn't a delivery. Not at this hour. It wasn't paparazzi. He knew that sound. This was something else, something trembling. He stepped off the porch slowly and walked down the path to the gate. The knock came again, softer this time. When he reached the gate, he saw her, a girl maybe in her early 20s, thin, with hair clinging to her cheeks from the sweat and heat. Her clothes were worn but clean. Her shoes were cracked. Her eyes were large, frightened, and sunken with hunger. She didn't speak right away. She just stood there, fingers curled tightly round the strap of a backpack that looked too heavy for her frame. Keanu's single quote's first instinct was caution. The world had taught him to be careful. People lied, some fake need. But something in her eyes didn't let him turn away. It was the kind of quiet he recognized. Not just silence but sorrow, deep sorrow. "Hi," he said gently. "Can I help you?" Her lips trembled. She swallowed hard and finally whispered, "Please, can I clean your house? Anything, just for food. I don't want money. Just something to eat, please." Keanu froze, not because of the words. He'd heard desperate pleas before. He donated. He volunteered quietly at shelters. But it was her face. Now that she looked up fully into the fading light, his breath caught. It was familiar. He didn't know why. He couldn't place it yet. But it was like a memory brushed against his skin and vanished before he could grab it. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then replied, "Ivy." There was a small, almost broken smile behind her answer, as if saying her name still gave her a sense of self, a reminder that she once mattered to someone. Keanu stepped back from the gate. "Come in," he said softly. "You don't have to clean. Let's get you something to eat." She looked at him in disbelief. "I don't want pity," she said. "Just a chance. I'll mop, sweep, anything." "You're not getting pity," he said. "You're getting soup." He watched her body release tension like a house finally letting go of a storm. She nodded slowly, stepped through the gate, and followed him toward the porch. She moved carefully, as if not wanting to make too much sound. Her gaze darted around, as if she expected someone to jump out and tell her it was a trap or a cruel joke. Inside the house, he guided her to the kitchen. He heated a pot of lentil soup, the same one he made every Sunday. Ivy sat at the edge of the chair, barely touching it, afraid to relax. When he placed the bowl in front of her, she hesitated. Then she ate. Slow at first, then faster, then suddenly stopped. Her eyes filled with tears. "You okay?" he asked. She wiped her mouth quickly and nodded. "Thank you," she whispered. There was a heaviness in the room, not uncomfortable, but thick with unspoken things. He didn't press. Instead, he sat across from her, sipping his tea. "Where are you from?" he asked gently. She looked down. "Nowhere. Somewhere. It doesn't matter. It matters to me," he said. She met his eyes then, and he saw it again, that flicker of something familiar. Not just the face. It was in the way she tilted her head, the way her fingers trembled around the spoon. "How long have you been out here?" he asked. Ivy took a deep breath. 3 months on the street. Before that, I don't know. Bounced around. Jobs, shelters, couch to couch. I was trying to stay invisible. But hunger doesn't let you hide for long. He nodded slowly. His chest tightened. He didn't want to ask the next question, but he had to. "Family," her spoon paused midair. "None," she whispered. Silence again, until Ivy asked quietly, "Why did you let me in?" "You didn't know me." Keanu smiled faintly. "You knocked, and you were honest." Her eyes welled up again, but she looked away. "That night, After she ate and he offered her the spare guest room fresh sheets, soft light, safety, she stood in the hallway and said the words that stuck with him for hours after she fell asleep. No. One's looked me in the eye for weeks. Not really. Until you. He couldn't sleep. He sat on the porch long into the night, thinking about her face. Why did it feel so familiar? Who was she? What was her story? And why did he feel like this was only the beginning? Asterisk the photo in the drawer. Keanu woke up earlier than usual the next morning. Sunlight spilled through the kitchen window, casting warm light on the hardwood floor. For a moment, it almost felt like his old life, quiet mornings, making breakfast, for someone who wasn't just a shadow in a dream. He walked down the hall and listened. The guest room door was closed. He didn't knock. He didn't want to startle her. Instead, he made 2 cups of tea and placed one on the small table outside her room, just in case she woke up and wanted something warm. He knew what it was like to be fragile, to not trust kindness. Pushing too hard could shatter someone who was already cracked. An hour later, he heard the creak of the door. Ivy stepped out, hair slightly tangled, her expression guarded but softer than the night before. "I didn't dream it," she whispered, as if to herself. Keanu turned and smiled gently. "No dream, just tea." She looked at the cup. "I can clean something. The bathroom, the floors. I still want to earn it." He nodded. "You can help me in the garden. I've been avoiding pulling weeds." Her eyes lit up just a little. It wasn't joy, not yet, but it was hope, small, flickering hope. They spent the next hour outside. The backyard wasn't huge, but it had a few flower beds, some herbs, and an old wooden bench shaded by a lemon tree. Ivy worked with quiet focus. She didn't complain. She didn't rush. She moved like someone who had learned to make herself small and useful. Keanu watched her carefully. And then, as she reached up to trim a vine, her sleeve slipped slightly. He saw the edge of an old scar, thin, curved, and familiar. He looked away quickly, not wanting her to notice. But something in him stirred. That shape, he'd seen that shape before. Later that afternoon, Ivy offered to do the dishes, and Keanu walked into his study to look for a book he'd promised to lend her. She mentioned loving books, especially ones about space and science, things she never got to study properly. His study was lined with shelves, most covered in dust. But it wasn't the books that caught his eye. It was a drawer in the old cabinet by the window. Something made him open it. Inside were random items he hadn't touched in years: an old camera, some postcards, a small jewelry box, and at the bottom, a stack of photographs. He hadn't looked at them since a film project he'd done nearly 10 years ago. The film was based on real events. Keanu had met with families, survivors, and volunteers at youth shelters across the country. It had changed him. He shuffled through the photos, faces of teens from those shelters. Their eyes burned into his memory. And then, there she was. Ivy. Younger, thinner, but the same eyes, same scar on her wrist. She had been one of the girls interviewed at a youth center in San Diego. He remembered now. Her name had been different. Ivy wasn't what she used then, but her story, it had haunted him. She had disappeared shortly after. The shelter tried to find her. No one could. Keanu stood there, frozen. Ivy was the girl from the shelter. She had vanished from the system, from the world. And now she was sleeping in his guest room. He took the photo and sat down. His hands trembled slightly. What had happened to her all these years? Why was she using a different name? Was she in danger? He didn't confront her that day. Instead, he decided to earn her trust first. People who had been lost for that long didn't just open up because someone offered them soup. They needed something more. Safety. Time. And truth. That evening, they ate together again. She was quieter. Her eyes scanned the room like they always did, making sure exits were clear, noting every sound. Keanu asked her gently, "Have you always liked space?" She nodded. "Since I was little. It made me feel far away from here." He smiled. "I used to wish I could float. Just drift. No noise, no pressure." Ivy looked up. "You too?" "Yeah," he said. "Quiet has its own kind of music." That night, after she went to bed, Keanu looked through the rest of the drawer. More files, notes, some letters from people he met during filming. He pulled Out his laptop and typed in the name she used back then. No results. He searched deeper. An old blog post. One line caught his eye. The girl with the scar never came back. We always wondered if she made it out. He shut the laptop slowly. He looked down the hall. Ivy had made it out. Barely. But she had. And now, maybe, just maybe, she had a second chance. But something still wasn't right. Because if Ivy had been hiding all these years, what was she hiding from? The man in the black cart. Next morning, the sky was gray. Soft clouds drifted low over the hills like a quiet warning. Keanu brewed his tea and sat on the porch again. Ivy was still asleep, or pretending to be. He didn't blame her. Sometimes, it was safer to hide behind sleep than face a new day full of unknowns. As he sat with his thoughts, the memory of the photo wouldn't leave him. The girl in the shelter, the lost face, the scar. It was Ivy. He was sure of it now. And the more he thought about it, the more the weight in his chest grew. Someone had hurt her. Someone had made her disappear. And someone, somewhere, might still be looking for her. He was about to go back inside when something strange happened. A black car slowly rolled past the front of his house. Not fast, not parked. Just slow. Watching. Keanu narrowed his eyes. Cars passed through this neighborhood all the time, but this one moved like it had a purpose. The windows were tinted, the engine low and steady. It didn't stop. It just cruised past and turned the corner. He sat still, every sense alert. Then he walked inside and gently knocked on the guest room door. "Ivy," he called softly. There was silence. Then, after a pause, her voice. "Yeah, breakfast's ready when you're up, okay?" she said. He didn't ask her about the car. Not yet. At the table, she seemed tense. Her hands shook slightly as she held the spoon. He tried to act normal. He talked about the garden, about a film he'd seen years ago, about how the neighbor's dog kept digging up his herbs. But she didn't smile. She was somewhere else. After breakfast, he walked with her into the garden again. They picked lemons and talked a little. Finally, he asked carefully, "Did you ever live in San Diego?" She froze. Her hands stopped moving. "Why do you ask?" she said quietly. "Just curious," he replied. "I visited a youth shelter there once. Met a few kids. They had dreams, stories." Her face was pale now. "I don't remember much from that time," she said. "Lots of places. Lots of sleeping on floors." He nodded, not pushing. "You don't have to tell me anything," he said. "But I want you to know. You're safe here. No one's going to hurt you." She looked up sharply. "You saw the photo, didn't you?" she whispered. Keanu met her eyes. "Yes." She sat down on the bench, her hands gripping the edge. "I thought I was gone from that world," she said. "I changed my name, changed everything." "Why?" he asked gently. "Because someone was following me," she said, voice cracking. "He said I belonged to him, said I owed him everything. I was just a kid. He found me on the street, gave me food, clothes, but then it turned into something else." Keanu's fists clenched. "He said if I ever ran, he'd find me, and if I told anyone, he'd disappear me." Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "So I disappeared myself," she said. "I kept running, never stayed long. I slept behind churches, in storage rooms. I never used my real name again." Keanu sat beside her, silent for a moment. "You did the bravest thing anyone could do," he said. "You survived." Ivy looked at him, confused. "But I'm still afraid." "That doesn't make you weak," he replied. "It makes you human." That afternoon, Ivy offered to help organize the garage. It was filled with old tools, boxes, and forgotten furniture. She worked steadily, trying to stay busy, trying not to think. But when Keanu went out to bring her water, he caught her standing still, staring at a dusty mirror, not at herself, but at something behind her. The street. He followed her gaze. The same black car, parked now. Down the street. Ivy dropped the box in her hands. "He found me," she whispered. Keanu stepped in front of her. "We don't know that," he said. "Yes," she said, voice hollow. That's how he watched. Never came close, just waited. Keanu didn't hesitate. He locked the gate, called a friend at the security firm he trusted, and arranged for cameras to be installed immediately. That night, Ivy didn't sleep, neither did he. But sometime after midnight, she spoke from the hallway. "Do you believe in second chances?" she asked softly. Keanu stood from the couch where he had been reading and nodded. Double quotes, "I do," he said. "And sometimes we get to help someone else have theirs." Ivy looked at him for a long moment, her eyes wide, full of something between fear and faith. "I want to stop running," she whispered. "Then let's stand together," he said. Asterisk voices from the past be morning. The black car was gone. Ivy stood at the window, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Keanu brought her a cup of warm tea and said nothing. He knew what it was like to carry fear that didn't disappear with the sun. After breakfast, he got a call from his friend, Darius, the one from the security firm. "I installed the cameras while you slept," Darius said. "One covers the front, the other the back. Discreet. Motion activated. If that car comes back, we'll know." Keanu thanked him, then turned back to Ivy. She was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a photo on the fridge. It was old Keanu and his sister when they were kids. "You were a kid once," Ivy said, softly. "Still am, sometimes," Keanu replied with a faint smile. "Must be nice," she whispered, "to remember childhood like that." Keanu sat across from her. "What do you remember?" "A fire," she said. "A dark room. A woman yelling. And stars. I used to trace constellations in the cracks of the ceiling at night." He listened carefully, not just to the words, but the silence between them. Ivy continued. "When I was 14, I trusted a man who said he could help me. He took me in, gave me food, but there were rules and secrets, and soon it turned into a cage." Her fingers gripped the mug tightly. "He never hit me in public, never left marks people could see. But he controlled everything: what I wore, who I spoke to, even when I could eat. And when I tried to leave, he said he'd find me. He said I owed him my life." Keanu's chest burned. He wanted to break something, but he stayed calm for her. "You don't owe him anything," he said gently. "You are not what happened to you." She looked up at him, her eyes raw. "Do you really believe that?" "I do," he said. "And I think you're stronger than you realize." She gave a broken laugh. "I'm terrified." "Then you're honest," he replied. "And that takes courage." Later that day, he called a woman named Dr. Marta Wells, a trauma counselor he trusted. She had helped a friend of his years ago and was known for her quiet strength and deep kindness. He told her about Ivy. "Bring her in," Marta said. "Or if she's not ready, I'll come to her. But we must do it carefully. If she's been hunted, she may not trust systems." Keanu nodded. "We'll take it slow." When he offered the idea to Ivy, she hesitated. "A therapist?" she asked. "Won't they report me? Put me back in the system?" "No," he said. "Dr. Marta's different. She's not part of any government office. She's here to help, no judgment, no pressure." Ivy agreed. Barely. Drive. Marta arrived that evening. She was in her 60s, soft-spoken, with silver hair tied in a bun and eyes that had seen more than most people ever would. They spoke on the porch. Ivy said very little at first. But Marta didn't push. She just listened. After an hour, Ivy asked, "Why didn't you ask me about my scars?" "Because they're not the most important thing about you," Marta replied. Ivy blinked, stunned. That night, Ivy slept more peacefully than she had since arriving. But Keanu couldn't. He'd been researching. He wanted to know more about the man Ivy feared. He dug through online forums, dark corners of the web, and finally, he found something. A photo. Old, blurry, but it was the man. He wore a dark coat, sharp jaw, eyes cold and lifeless. Name, Vincent Ray. Multiple aliases. Never charged. Suspected in trafficking, coercion, and underground control of vulnerable teens across several cities. Known to change cars, identities, methods. But always found them. Keanu stared at the screen, fists clenched. Vincent Ray was real. And he was dangerous. Keanu printed the photo and tucked it into his jacket. Then he made a call to someone he hadn't spoken to in years. A private investigator named Ray Walker. "I need eyes on a man," Keanu said. "Who is he?" "Someone who thinks he owns people," Keanu said coldly. "You paying for protection?" Ray asked. I'm paying for truth, Keanu replied, and safety, for someone who deserves to sleep without fear. Later that night, Ivy walked into the living room, where Keanu sat reading. I heard you on the phone, she said softly. You're trying to find him, aren't you? He closed the book. Yes, she nodded slowly. If he comes, she said, I won't run this time. Keanu looked at her, surprised. Are you sure? No, she whispered, but I'm tired of hiding. The trapped next few days passed slowly. Ivy began to change. She still flinched at sudden sounds. She still kept a bag packed under the guest bed. But she also began to smile, small smiles, real ones. She helped Keanu replant the herb garden. She sat in the sunlight without constantly looking over her shoulder. She read books again, stories about stars, time, and people who traveled far from pain. Every evening, Keanu made tea. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they sat in silence. He never forced her to speak, and she never forced herself to explain. And in that quiet space, something grew, something steady. Not just trust, but safety. Then one morning, Keanu got a message from Ray Walker, the investigator. Found him, Vincent Ray, downtown Los Angeles, corner of East Hill Street. He's asking questions about a girl who stole from him. Said her name used to be Leela. That rang a bell. Keanu's blood ran cold. Ivy had never told him that name, but now it all made sense. She used to be Leela. She had become Ivy. A new name, a new self, a way to survive. Keanu showed her the message, carefully, gently. She stared at it for a long time. Then she nodded. That was my name, she said softly. But it isn't anymore. He didn't ask questions. He just said, we're not going to let him near you. Ivy hesitated. Then she looked at him with a strange, quiet strength. No, she said, we're going to end this. Keanu blinked. What do you mean? I want him caught, she said. I want to stop running, but I also want to make sure he never does this to another girl. Keanu sat down slowly. Ivy, that's dangerous. I know, she said, but if we don't stop him, someone else will suffer. I have to help. I can't live quiet while he still hunts. Keanu didn't argue. Instead, he called Ray and Drive, Marta. They formed a quiet plan. The police wouldn't be enough. Vincent had escaped before. They needed proof, recordings, witnesses. And they needed Ivy's consent. Ivy agreed. Together, they created a trap. She would return to the place where Vincent had last asked about her, a broken cafe downtown that used to serve as one of his meeting points. She would walk in alone, wearing a mic. Keanu would be nearby. So would Ray, hidden, watching, waiting. Ivy was scared. Her hands trembled as they prepared, but she didn't back out. I want my name back, she said quietly. When the day came, it was raining, gray and cold. The city seemed to hold its breath. Keanu drove Ivy to the cafe. He didn't say much, just handed her a small charm from his necklace, an old coin his mother had once given him for luck. He said. She squeezed it tight in her hand. Thank you, she whispered. Ivy stepped into the cafe. The man was there. Vincent. He hadn't changed much. Same cold eyes, same sharp suit. He smiled when he saw her, like nothing had ever happened. Well, he said, my little Leela, you came back. Ivy's voice was quiet, but the mic caught every word. I'm not Leela, she said, not anymore. You'll always be mine, he said, reaching for her arm. But the moment he touched her, Keanu burst through the door. So did Ray. So did 3 plainclothes officers they had arranged ahead of time. The cafe erupted into motion. Vincent tried to run, but he was too late. They tackled him outside, in the rain, on the cold pavement. Keanu held Ivy back as she watched. She didn't cry. She didn't look away. She just stood there, breathing. For the first time in years, without fear, Vincent Ray was taken away, charged under several names. Linked to multiple disappearances. But this time, there was evidence. Ivy's voice, her courage, her truth. And Keanu's unwavering support. That night, Ivy sat on the porch in silence. Keanu handed her a cup of tea. She looked at him. I think I can finally sleep, she said. He smiled. You're safe now. And free, she added. He nodded. And free, Asterisk the girl who came back the courtroom was quiet. Ivy sat at the back, her hands folded in her lap. Beside her sat Dr. Marta and Keanu, both calm, both solid. Vincent Ray stood in chains, no longer powerful, no longer untouchable. His sharp suit was replaced by prison gray. His cold stare didn't work anymore. Not on her. The prosecutor read her statement aloud. Her words. Her story. Not as a victim, but as a survivor. And the court listened. She didn't tremble. She didn't cry. She looked straight ahead, her face steady, her voice calm inside the paper. He told me I belonged to him, but I never did. I was a child, and now I am free. And I stand here to make sure no other girl suffers the way I did. Vincent didn't speak once. Not a single word. He was sentenced to 25 years without parole. As they led him away, Ivy whispered, "He doesn't get to live in my head anymore." Keanu placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Outside the courthouse, the sky was clear. Warm sun, birds overhead. Life felt real again. But Ivy didn't know what came next. What now? She asked quietly, as they stood on the courthouse steps. Keanu smiled. "Whatever you want. I don't even know what I want," she said. Then, "Start small," he said. "What feels right?" She thought for a moment, then said, "I want to go back to school, study the stars, maybe help girls like me one day." Keanu nodded. "Then we do that." The next few months passed gently. Ivy moved into a small apartment near a community college. Keanu helped her register for night classes. Dr. Marta continued to meet with her once a week. Ray Walker checked in every now and then, just to be sure Vincent's people weren't still lurking, but they weren't. That chapter was closed. One evening, Ivy stood on stage at a local youth center. She wore a simple blue dress, her hands slightly shaking as she held the microphone. The room was full of girls. Runaways, survivors, dreamers. She shared her story, how she'd been trapped. How she'd run, how someone opened a gate and gave her soup without asking anything in return, and how that moment changed everything. "I used to think my story ended when I disappeared," she said, "but really, that's when it began." In the back of the room, Keanu watched quietly, arms folded. He didn't need thanks. He didn't want credit. He just wanted her to shine, and she did. Ivy finished her speech with a soft smile. "I used to be Leela," she said. "Now I'm Ivy, and I choose who I become next." The crowd stood and clapped. Some cried. Some whispered her name like a prayer. Afterward, she found Keanu outside, leaning against a wall in the cool night air. "You didn't have to come," she said. "Wouldn't have missed it," he replied. "You gave me back my voice," she whispered. He shook his head. "No, you found it. I just listened." She hugged him. No words. Just truth. Two souls who had walked through shadows and now stood in the light. Weeks later, Ivy was accepted into a university program for astronomy. She got a part-time job at the youth center. Her life wasn't perfect. Some days were still hard, but she no longer feared sleep. She no longer looked over her shoulder. And one Sunday afternoon, as she helped Keanu in the garden, pulling weeds and laughing at old jokes, she paused and looked at him. "Remember the first thing I said to you?" she asked. He nodded. "You asked if you could clean my house for food." She smiled. "You said yes, and didn't even ask why." He looked at her, eyes warm. "Because sometimes," he said, "a person doesn't need to explain their pain. They just need someone to say, 'Come in.'" She nodded slowly, then whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" "For not freezing forever, for letting the moment pass, and choosing kindness." And in that moment, under the lemon tree, in a garden that had once held only silence, they sat together in peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because something real had begun.